Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Webbot time. And even though we're at the end of December, we're actually doing January's report right now. Usually he has it out the first week sometime of that month. This time it's out. And I'm here to tell you, it's been a while since I said this. Maybe twice I've said, this is one of those Webbot reports you're going to want to buy. Well, this is one of those Webbot reports you're going to want to buy. Usually these things are about 35 pages, at least in the last many, many, many months. This one's 45, and it's chock full of stuff. And I am going to be going over my 30-minute threshold. As I've mentioned, Cliff High gives me 30 minutes. He said, try to keep the summaries down to 30 minutes if you don't mind. Absolutely, you got it. But I'm taking one for the team, okay? This video is probably going to go over 30 minutes because there's just so much stuff in here that I want to talk about. And even though there's so much stuff I want to talk about, and I'm going to try to read this damn thing fast, there's even more that I don't talk about that's in that report, like greater detail of stuff. I'm telling you, this is one of those ones. You want to throw Cliff a bone, and maybe you choose when you want to do it. This is one of those ones, okay? Trust me on this one. Having said that, I wanted to get this, since it's not at least as many people's hands as I could get this report into. I emailed him, Cliff, do you mind, with your approval, can I send, because I've already got the report, can I send 2 free copies out to a couple random subscribers or people who comment on my video, talking about this video? He replied, yeah, no problem. Great. So I'm giving away 2 of this Webbot report for free. And I thought to myself, right before I did this video, you know what? I'm going to go buy one and make it 3. So I'm giving away 3 Webbot reports this month. I know we're in December, but this is January's Webbot report. I will be giving away 3. If you are one of the 3, tell me why in the comment section. Why should JSnip4 give you one? No answer is too dumb or smart or anything. I don't even know what's going to make me want to give it to someone, but I'll let my intuition, if you will, do its part. And just say, you know what? I'm going to give that person one, that person one, that person one. Have a nice day. So he gave me permission to give away 2 of these babies, and I'm just purchased another one, 3rd one. Why? Because that's how I roll. I do want to share one little thing. I apologize to everyone who wants me to just get right into it. Just shut up and get into it. Just give me a second. Because my 30 minutes ain't counting right now. I'm watching the clock. When I start talking about the Webbot, that's when my 30 minutes starts. Okay? All right. Cliff High emailed me I don't even know how long ago it was now. It was probably 2 years ago. I'm trying to think if we were back from... Yeah, I think we were back from Tennessee. So it was 2014, maybe. And he says, hey, just an FYI, you're in the report. You came up in the data Webbot report. Now, he didn't put my personal stuff in the Webbot report for all to read, but he sent me a note. You're in the... I checked your YouTube name. I checked your first name and which I have a unique last name. It's definitely you. And I don't know what to make of this. It just seems like there's going to be an accident, like a workplace accident. It's you, but it's like a near miss. So it's like, it's a near miss workplace accident type of thing. I don't have much data on it, but I do have that much. So, be careful, is what he said. So I was all nervous, told my wife about it. Man, what's that? Wonder what could happen in workplace. I'm an IT guy. I sit at my desk all day long. I barely get up and move around. What's going to happen? I sit, my back's against the wall. Really? Like, there's nothing. I'm not even close to the server racks or anything. Like, if one by chance fell over for some reason. We don't get earthquakes in Florida, so why would it fall over? Is a car going to come through the building? Well, no, we're way deep past the parking lot. I'm like trying to go over stuff in my head. What could it be? Maybe the roof falls, maybe the roof, I just can't come up with anything. And he didn't have a time frame other than, actually, I think he did. I think he said in the next few, maybe it was something like the next few weeks or something like that. So I'm like on edge, I was a little nervous. I actually was like real nervous. Like, oh man, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I really wanted to know that. Like, I kind of wish he didn't tell me, because what's going to happen? But he said, what's a near miss? Nothing to be too concerned about. And I thought to myself, I'm in this report. It's probably going to be nothing. It's probably just an accident, an accident as in accidentally being in the report for some reason. That's nonsense. And I'm not going to be in it, because nothing's going to happen. So I'm at my job and I have this PC running next to me, and it was running some kind of application at the time that had like the CPU, pegged out. It was hammering, but I wasn't like logged in on it. It was next to me running. I don't have to interact with it. I know what it's doing because I set it to do what it was doing, and it's just sitting on the floor next to me. Now, this particular tower, computer tower, has the power supply at the bottom. A lot of them have it at the top. This one has it at the bottom. And it seems like more and more nowadays they're putting me at the bottom now. And it's maybe, I don't know, 4 inches away from my foot. And I've got shoes on. But that's how close it was to my foot. And it was kind of cocked off at the angle on the side. And nothing was happening. All of a sudden, this thing like shorts out the power supply. Like, I guess it was just overloaded or junky Chinese power supply or whatever. And it sounded like someone was getting electrocuted. I looked down. My immediate reaction is to jerk my foot away while simultaneously looking down like, what the hell just happened? And as I'm jerking my foot away, just reflex, I can actually see sparks, like little lightning bolts, flying out of the back of the power supply, which in all my years, I've been doing computers for a long time, I have never in my life seen a power supply do such a thing. They usually just die. Sometimes there's a puff of smoke, a little bit, or the smell anyways. Oh, the thing just gave out. End of story. It nearly shocked me, but it did not. Number one, I had my shoes on, rubber soles, etc., bottoms. And by the time I jerked my foot away, I'm not able to tell how close was the little lightning bolt thing from hitting my foot. I don't know. But I saw how far it was coming out, and it was coming out at least a couple inches from the PC. I jump up. My heart is racing. I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, thank God I didn't get shocked. I'm like, holy crap. I stood up. I was like, holy crap. I've never seen one do that. The whole room stunk. It started going out in the hallway. I was like, oh, my goodness. So I went out for a second out of my room and just kind of took it in like, holy crap, that was a close call, man. I almost just got the crap knocked out of me. That one would have knocked me, that would have knocked me on my butt. And then it hits me. Workplace incident, accident, near miss. Oh my God. I got a little camera that I have in my car at all times because I used to do a lot of times going to work. I'd do videos on the way to work. And it was sitting there. So I ran out there, got the camera, did a video. It's probably still on YouTube. I don't think I deleted it. It should be here somewhere. Oh my God. Guys, it just happened. And I think I did a video telling everybody, hey, Cliff High said such and such. And this, so I'm looking out in the future to see if something happens. So I was able to come back out and say, oh my God, it just happened. Workplace accident, near miss. It just happened. I was blown away. As soon as I did the video, I'm emailing him, Cliff, you're not going to freaking believe this. Of course, he will believe it because he sent me the damn thing that said it was going to happen. So, of all people who study the web bot, talk about it, believe me, I'm at the top of wanting to be that guy that talks about these things all the time because I had a personal experience when he told me. He's like, I don't just run people randomly. My friends and people that I, like and things like that, I kind of look out and do a little side project sometime to just see what, anything coming up. For instances like this, if I saw someone's name, hey, you're getting on a plane next week, don't do it, if something came up. So I can say I can appreciate that. But I wanted to share that with you because there's probably a lot of people, clearly, in the last 2 years that I've gotten as subscribers who have never even heard that story. I'm telling you my video's on YouTube. I might even go try to find it and link it in the description box if I remember after this 30 or so minute video I'm about to do. But telling you that story, he emailed me today. Which is why I'm telling you that story, because it reminded me of it. But this is a better one. Some stuff in the report about me that you get a heap of recognition in June or July of this coming year, obviously. No idea for what, but something done between January and end of May. Could be business or YouTube. I doubt it's work-related, though there is a spillover that gets you some kudos and natural advancement opportunities at work. So not a bad deal, huh? Later. Report out. Yeah, report out, later, which it's out. I've already got it. So he's got something on me again. This is fascinating for me. It wouldn't be nearly as fascinating if he didn't already say near miss work-related incident and it didn't happen. And just so you know, it's never happened since. Nor have I had any other supposed or work-related incident, even kind of remotely. Okay? I had to tell you that. So, I realize I've been talking for a good bit. I apologize. I want to get right into this. Again, this one's a keeper. Okay? This one's a keeper. You can get the report at halfpasthuman.com, $15. You can use PayPal, etc. And I wrote a little foreword. I wrote one sentence. This might be one of the most fascinating WebBot reports I've ever feasted my eyes upon. And I can't, again, I hate to say this. To keep saying this. I left a lot of stuff out of areas I did not want to leave out. I never even got to the Pop USA entity or USA Pop entity or the markets entity. And I'm like, this is getting kind of long. Let me chop some stuff out. Get rid of that. Oh, but I really wanted to talk about that. What do I put in? What do I take out? Right? I was like struggling a few times. But I feel like I've got a good summary here. But there's a whole lot more. And for Australia, there's an Australia Pop in here, which has been in here before. It's quite large for my Australian peeps. Another WebBot on the Bobby. Okay. My second note to myself, which you will find out why I said this later on in this report. I said, also, I am even more confused as ever about getting, should I get more Bitcoin or silver? As you'll find out later in this report. And having said that, by the time I read the full report, I just kind of sat there at my desk, saw an email pop in, Silver Doctors. Oh, Silver Doctors. SDBullion.com. Let me go browse around their site a little bit. And I saw, I have to show you this. I'm sorry, again. I still have to show you this. Silver Doctors. Give me 1 second. Matter of fact, let me just so that you're not staring at nothing. Let's have you take a look at this screen. I'm on the wrong site. SDBullion.com. I saw this bar sticking out at me. I made the decision. Okay, I'm not going with Bitcoin right now. I'm going to get a few of these bars. That's what I'm going to do. And when I saw it, it stood out at me and punched me in the face as this is what you need to get. Which was interesting for me because I've never been browsing on a website, saw a silver coin or bar stick out. Oh, I want to get that. Let me go get it. It was weird. But this particular one, you'll see why. So I'm going to buy silver. I'm going to the bars. And there was an interesting bar that caught my eye. As much as I am not a religious person, and I've even questioned, did Jesus exist? Is he really, the Son of God? I don't believe in that. But maybe he did exist, and he was the Gandhi of his time. There's a lot of, stories about that. One in particular, 10-ounce silver bar. I bought a few of these 10-ouncers. This particular one, Jesus clears the temple, 10-ounce silver bars. And I looked at this. As you can see, it's Jesus with the little, I don't know what that is, little thing, whipping the banksters, the rotten, corrupt money changers, as they called it. They said Jesus cleared the temple of these rats. And I said, bingo, that's it. And again, I'm not a religious guy. Jay Stitt, what the hell are you doing buying a Jesus bar? It hit me. This is the one you want. Get it. So I bought some today. And after reading the WebBot report, because I felt like half a dozen one way, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Webbot, silver, or Bitcoin. The good news is when I upload this video for tomorrow morning, I'll have a first comment on there. To get past everything I talked about in the beginning, start here. However, you may want to know about some of this stuff. So I don't know if I'll even do that comment, to tell you the truth. Anyways, I wanted to share that with you. I just bought a few of these today. It hit me, do it. And I did it, and I felt great about it. Matter of fact, every time I buy silver, I feel great about it, if you want to know the truth. But this was something special. He's whipping the banksters. Get out of here, you money-changing bastards. Ooh, loved it. And what's that, the backside? Silver shield, friends, skills, wealth. It's nice. So I will get into this report now. Apologize for this little precursor thing. But I felt, honestly, I don't talk just to talk. I talk because I feel like I want to share this with you. I want to tell you some of these things, even though it may not be related. And I know there's people out there who get pissed off. Just read the stupid report. We just want to know the report. And to you, I say, piss off. Piss off. Give me a break. I'm here for everybody. Give me a little chance here. Give me a little bonus. Throw me a bonus, if you will. Title of the report: Sci-Fi World. Seemingly, the decision had... Oh, let me look at my time, so I know when I have to really stop. So, okay. And not only that, even if I have to stop, like I said, if I go over, Cliff Highs, I'm taking one for the team, buddy. I'm taking one for the team. I got to do a little over if I go over. On this report especially. Seemingly, the decision has been made by universe to take humanity into what we can label as sci-fi world. In this world, we don't really have a singular movie idea that can be used to identify our collective future. As we go forward into this brave new sci-fi world, we can rest assured that we will all be helping to describe our new collective experience. Stated another way, universe has made a decision, so to speak, or humanity has, but not the powers that be. The limited and usually horrific vision for the future offered by the powers that be is being forecast as being flushed. This is good news. The bravery or courage issue is going to surface in several areas of humanity over early 2017 as the data sets have religion, especially monotheism, or monotheism, I should say, under factual assault from new discoveries. These factual assaults are showing as overturning and upending over the next 10 years of the claimed origins for the religions. New information is forecast as coming from the other side of the planet that is going to prove biblical distortions of history and non-participation of any of the monotheism religions in any of their claimed history. These sets are suggesting that the greatest reformation of human thought in over 7,000 years will be overtaking us all the rest of this decade and beyond. The longer-term sets have it only taking a quick 4 years for the established religions or religious structures or organizations to be dying and abandoned as facts, and new technological innovations allow for a tentative rewriting of human history. Now, having said that, you would think right off the bat, why are you buying a Jesus bar? I'm telling you, I felt I had to buy that bar. I love the fact that he was running the bankers off, whether that's a real story or not. It's fantastic. And I will also tell you, I don't think I included in this report, but as I'm reading that section, I'm reminded of it, that, and I'm not sure how far out, this could be years, but, you know, the religions and the amount of money or tithing they take in, enormous sums, it says that if the numbers are right, they're going to start seeing, when this happens in the future, whatever numbers they're used to seeing, they'll be getting 10% of that. Could you imagine the haircut? And in some older web bots, I remember the bot talking about churches shutting down left and right, not enough money coming in, yada, 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 government selling the land to claim the tax money that it's owed, etc. You know, like property tax. That's not in this report. I just want to remind you of that part. Yet, more longer-term data for the Ice Age that runs from about mid-2025 through 2047 These very long-term sets have the undeniable nature of the ice age symptoms to be reaching visibility by mid-year in 2025, which is forecast to be also the beginning year of the great 10-year-long diaspora for the Northern Hemisphere. The ice age symptoms are showing as ocean currents changing, ocean levels reducing, precipitation of all kinds, including dust or dry sands, increasing, and ice glaciers forming across the entire band of the Northern Hemisphere, including many areas that are within the tropics. The ice age symptoms sets also include yet more space cold plasma events in which sudden local deep freezing occurs in only a few minutes as the plasma descends from space. While described as usually occurring at high altitude, the new supporting sets for the cold plasma events are now showing that videos of such an episode will be appearing over 2017 and 2018 as the cold plasma events begin to descend over areas even down to sea level. These flash freezes are showing us creating all kinds of problems over the next few decades, including freezing airplanes in mid-flight, to the point that we get crashes in which the airplane is also going to bring down hundreds of tons of ice. Other impacts will include buildings and whole cities and towns, which will be flash frozen, such that utilities stop and winter freezes in canals, pipes, lakes, sinks. Supporting sets also include broken glass across whole blocks as the building freezes and twists from the cold distortions. There are also some shorter-term value sets indicating that a cruise ship will be missed by yards in being involved in a sudden ocean freezing event before mid-year 2018. Other sets have new definitions being developed for frozen rain towers, in which whole rain storms are frozen in place with ice columns reaching hundreds of feet. Even stranger, perhaps, are going to be the frozen beaches with salted ice platforms extending out from the beach into the ocean for miles. Again, this may not, it's said from about mid-2025 to 2047, so don't expect anything like this anytime soon. More of the Ice Age new data contains either directly held subsets or crosslinks over to the secrets revealed metadata layer within the Terra entity. In this area, there are many sets that suggest the authorities across much of the Western world have been colluding to obscure and or hide the evidence of the developing Ice Age. These sets have large crosslinks to, guess where? Antarctica, once again. Sets repetitiously filling this report and discussed at some length below. The secrets revealed metadata layer is very active across many entities within many diverse sets. In the Terra entity, this data is forecasting that leaks will emerge about the cover-up of over fake climate data. More importantly, at least in the emotional sums, is that the Quiben, or who benefits, will come out as a very substantial temporal marker for other, more pleasant events, such as the second leg up of the precious metals spike in US dollar terms. Next section is called Your Global Population Changes. The globe that is defined by the US dollar is showing within the data as continuing to lose jobs and lose job creation over these next few years, as the global dollar depression is showing as deepening and spreading, widening out over dollar planet. The data sets are providing forecasts that the US dollar world will be upside down and inside out over 2017. The data sets show that the first few days following January 8th are going to be the initiation point for the chaos in the global markets that will be blamed on the pending power shift in USA pop, which I'm assuming means, Donald Trump stepping in, but will in fact be the result of a proximate cracking near to breaking or close to separating problem that will be originating in Europe and will be pressuring complex derivatives, both at a contract level, counterparty risks, as well as on the table. Additional note, reference is unclear, repeated, but not defined any further. I'm going to add mine, where he says counterparty risks as well as on the table. Some of these, maybe a lot of them, these derivatives contracts are called over-the-counter or OTC derivatives, over-the-counter. He has on the table. I wonder if that's what's meant possibly. I'm not sure. Other aspects / attribute sets that are temporally linked to the USA pop power shift in late January, but which develop within other parts of global pop, include new sets we can label as a EU-R Asia Bitcoin Nation. So EU-R Asia Bitcoin Nation. Very clumsily labeled, admittedly, but it encapsulates all of the developing large sets for this new linguistic structure. Additional note, maybe forming into an entity space, very large growth in very short period. The EU-R Asia Bitcoin Nation is described as a Bitcoin layer being put into place across the Chinese pan-continental trading zone. The data sets are describing a new fiber, and he says optics, layer that will be spreading out over 2017 in a remarkably fast manner that is further described as drawing in and online nearly 1 billion new people, and as well as extending out to that same 1 billion the use of Bitcoin. Further discussion in the market's entity. Okay, and now we have a section which I shortened down drastically. Breakaway pop. Remember that thing with the breakaway civilization piece? We add a new entity starting with this report. This entity is the breakaway pop, which represents the collective of the population that powers the breakaway civilization. And it's something to do with kidnappings and other interesting stuff, but I'm not going to cover that in this summary. You can get the full report at halfpasthuman.com. It's my little side note. Pop War, India, Subcontinent Theater. The data sets are showing that by the end of March, it will be acknowledged that the India pop is in revolt, with new power centers being created away from officialdom. The forecasts are for a very rough year or years for India pop as the war against cash, gold, populism escalates and India pop responds. From the New Year's riots to the police actions of spring, India pop is indicated to be in turmoil and upheaval for most of the first half of 2017. The economy problems are showing as being magnified by the adverse weather in several large regions. There are many sets for floods that will be interrupting the political chaos and money crisis over February and March. Pop War, UK Block War. This was a little interesting. Once again, a very small summary of what was actually in here. There are new data sets that are describing a strange situation forecast to develop in the UK, mostly England, over 2017. That is forecast to explode into global pop visibility by the end of the year. The data sets are describing block war, or house against house and blocks against blocks in street battles. The data sets are showing that clashing between communities will be a religious war that is described as taking over the global pop attention. I wonder what that's going to be about. You don't think it's these immigrants, do you? No, not at all. The data sets are describing the early signs of block war as appearing in 2017, with the police being in a roundup situation which will yield a hidden element of weapons smuggling. The data sets are suggesting that the police, in the process of arrests on a sweep of a particular dangerous area of a southern near to port city, will stumble over, additional note, apparently the word stumble will be used by news reports, a weapons cache. And in demonstration of the height of stupidity, the smugglers will have left behind evidence that includes a GPS map of their route, as well as cell phones with contact information. Where have we heard that before? As an aside, several of the cell phones are referenced deeper in the details as having belonged to officialdom in several Middle Eastern countries. Not a good thing for diplomatic relations. The UK block war is described as sparking over a pending incident between, here we go, migrants, established residents, also migrants, and local police. So migrants, new migrants, against established migrants and police. On to Australia pop. This had a good amount of data for my Australian blokes. You may want to check this report out because there's a lot on here and some interesting things that are going to be found back related to this Antarctica thing, as well as some cave systems in Australia that have been hidden until like earth changes start happening soon over there and kind of open them up. And there's also a run on, or not a run, but a silver opportunity because of that, mining silver, precious metals. But what's inside the caves and what's found is working technology from a past time. But again, I have to leave a lot of this out. Australia Pop. The data sets have the Australian housing market showing its age and sad condition over the first few weeks of the new year, as several impacts are forecasted to be felt from monetary mistake, political turmoil related to construction, and international censure/criticism, also related to corruption and political bribery. And we thought America was the only place that had that. New sets containing some small increase in detail levels are accruing to the seismic revealing of silver in the northwest of Australia. These now have more details about the seismic activity period that the planet is entering. These details are suggesting that Australia is going to have a very interesting time, as the description has the continent cracking, not in half nor separating, but rather developing a many kilometers long crack. This crack is described as being invisible except to scans, as in radar, etc. The crack is further described as altering aquifers and raising water levels, and later in the year, altering by cracks that won't fill road beds. There are many new sets for the Australia Pop that are describing the role it will be playing in the Antarctic wealth boom. So we have an Antarctic wealth boom it's talking about. These sets are showing that huge levels of investment will be made in Australia as the Antarctic discovery becomes open knowledge and the corporations begin to stage for the boom. Some kind of deflationary event will be taking place. The Australian banking system is popping up as being a developing hotspot in the February currencies storms that are a more general theme in the global pop, wherever the dollar as sway over local currencies. The thing to note about hotspots in animals or banking systems is that they represent energy blocks, and once scratched, thereafter require continuous scratching until the nerves are exhausted. Some more new sets and supporting positions for the archaeology to be located in deep caves along the empty coast. This is still Australia. These references include descriptions of functioning technology that will be hinted at initially as reports come out from the remnants of an expedition. The deep caves references are themselves intriguing, as they are describing cave systems that are, to this date, undiscovered and kilometers long and widely extensive. The data sets are also forecasting that the cave system is going to be, quick look surprised, taken over by government. The Australian real estate crisis is showing as moving into political instability as the corruption scandals escalate and the dirty details come out involving banks. Aside from the real estate markets, the Australia Pop sets are describing a Herculean, they will use this word, effort to repair the broken system of real estate financing. And I wrote here, anyone from Australia might want to buy this report, as it has a lot of info related to Australia that I'm just not able to cover, again, for the time constraints that I have. And I do get people from time to time from Australia specifically, hey, can you tell me this or that, So this one, believe it or not, may have the most I've ever seen on Australia in one report. Actually, I'm pretty sure of that. Canada Pop. Many new sets within the Global Pop entity, subset Canada Pop, are accruing to the general Humanity and Renaissance sets, with reinforcing supporting sets for Canada as the location for the large discovery of flexible mineral. This flexible mineral reference is the latest iteration of the language we have had for a very peculiar and previously unknown form of crystal that would be part of the power generation for the new electrics sets long forecast in these reports. China Pop. I made this one very short. The data sets have physical metals shortages appearing in China Pop by the end of January. Several paragraphs more about China I won't be covering due to the fact that I haven't even started on USA Pop or Markets entity. Deutsche Pop. Some new sets that are extensively cross-linked over to Space Goat's Farts have support for an extraordinary event to occur in southern Germany. The event itself has to do with some intelligence agencies and their quest for something unknown. The data has the intelligence agency's personnel being involved in a big dig in southern Germany. As I read this, I started thinking, is he talking about that damn money train? But that was in Romania or something, wasn't it? Where these guys think they found the hill where the Nazis buried the train full of gold and stuff. I thought that kind of hit me as I read this, but I don't know if that, whatever. The data shows that the quest goal, whatever it may be, is thought to be nearly complete due to new information that will send them digging deep, which again, this is why I'm almost thinking, is that it? The data has elements of confrontation as the intelligence agencies with hardware and gear are found to be digging in a spot that alerts the CERN, as in CERN, CERN security forces. While no battles are forecast, the incident is going to create an international disturbance that will have multiple years' involvement for Deutsche Pop. The quest goal sets have terminating sets within the Space Goats Farts entity that are descriptors for energy devices. Many of these Space Goats Farts terminating sets also both have climate change and space exploration subsets and supporting positions. The confrontation with the secret diggers is further described as leading to arrests at the scene, as well as producing some shocking video that is described as being viral within a single day. However, the exposure of the video will not necessarily be temporally close to the incident, though we may be close to the exposure of the video. What is indicated to be more troubling to Deutsche Pop at large is that another group of diggers will also be contacted and detained, only this time in the far northeast of Germany, near the border of sea and Poland. Sea as in the water, S-E-A. This instance is showing as being even stranger, with a mechanical approach to the digging as well as being inside a building as cover. Very odd and very troubling will be the resultant conclusion by the local authorities, at least insofar as the public statements. What is going to make this more meaningful is that the local authorities' comments are part of a larger temporal marker for some science evidence that is somehow connected to the new electric sets. These science evidence is not the expected announcements for some of the underlying principles that the new electrics sets had been forecasting as coming from Germany over this year. Rather, this is an ancillary set that has tangentially appeared with crosslinks into the new electric sets and the clandestine diggers sets. There are small numbers of crosslinks from the diggers over to the archaeology hunts in other areas of Global Pop. Further crosslinks go from these digger sets over to the mummy undersea wrecks in Global Pop, which I'm sure some of you remember from a few reports ago about these undersea shipwrecks with mummies on them that we're still waiting to see if that happens. Italy Pop. The continuing failure of the Italian banks is forecast to lead to the failure of the banking system, that is, Italian banking system, as we move into 2017. The data sets have the transition from individual banks failing into the failure of the banking system as being very rapidly visible in late January 2017 in the midst of both a nasty winter and earthquake shakes. These sets would have several months of agony for Italy Pop as the banking system goes from suffering credit freeze to suffering government intervention. Other aspects of the Italian banking system crisis are now coming into supporting positions for the food riots in Rome that spill over into looting Vatican archives sets, which have been in the data sets since the very early 2000s. And I do remember that. Mexico Pop. There continues to be new growth for the China Pop to Mexico Pop connections around silver and to a lesser extent gold. These sets are still providing growth to the meme that Mexico Pop is going to be a giant funnel of silver hats into China Pop with rising visibility in early 2017. The hat references are to the preferred shape and size of the silver that China Pop is going to demand. USA Pop left an enormous amount out of this one. USA Pop, the data sets have the power shift in USA Pop being a very, very interesting time for many of the people in USA Pop as the political system is described as coming unglued. These sets have a bloody war that is going to break out from within the political parties, both of them, as the power shift early days will be bringing out a number of victims that will be visible across USA Pop. These victims are forecast to be the new face of the political fracturing. These sets have the political structure going through an upheaval that is described as being beyond any past experience. This data has this upheaval, including raids against high-profile organizations, and then he says CGI, ? That will be screaming news on TV for weeks. These sets are forecasting the opening salvo of the political structure falling apart. Now, when he says the data has this upheaval, including raids against high-profile organizations, CGI ? The first thing that pops into my mind is, oh, you mean the fakers, the ones who have been faking the news, green screening things, making it look real. That's what I think when I see that word. These data sets have the financial infrastructure within USA Pop reeling from the political fracturing wars. The financial infrastructure is showing as both the weapon and the prize. This situation is not showing as going well for USA Pop as the battle will be attempted to be pushed out into USA Pop. These sets show that the pushed, or PUTSCH, against our enemies is going to be both badly timed and catastrophically managed. There are sets within these supporting sets that tie the European meddlers, as in meddling with our business, as being picked off in these USA Pop battles as the money flows are altered. There are also sets going to the idea of funds interdiction. These sets may be forecasting that foreign funds will be stopped from reaching local crises points. The data shows that officialdom will be using the foreign money attacks first on the local protests against such thing as pipelines, but then the data has other parts of officialdom who will use the same tactic to interdict foreign agitation funds. There are yet more new sets for woo-woo happening in Alaska. Further sets with the Alaska focus are suggesting that North American continent-wide impacts will be coming from the Alaska pyramids. And that's a word that comes off as pyramids with the parentheses S. So it's pyramid or pyramids. Note again, these are plural references indicating that there are two pyramids within the undiscovered Alaska, which are going to be having an impact on the continent according to the accretion patterns. Other parts of the woo-woo forecast include nuclear power problems across USA Pop, yet more failing pipelines and leaking concrete containers that will be inducing evacuations and disturbing the real estate markets in those areas. We have growth in nuclear problems with geographic references to New York and to the Carolinas. Some of the Carolina subsets are suggesting that it will be river problems that will be causing the leaking and the movement of people. The first set for the markets upended shares a great deal of the same sets as the currencies crises set, but deviates in that it is a weighted trajectory being described within the details. The weighted trajectory is describing a downward arcing of financial charts that will be felt by the trading communities as overwhelming and a punch in the gut or abdomen. The punch to the gut language also includes vomiting and passing out as ancillary supporting sets. These sets provide no numbers, though we do have many references focusing on bonds and derivatives as being the subjects of the downward arcing charts. These sets are filled with supporting sets of longer-term data and other temporal references for a 7-month long period of focus on the bonds and derivatives will be occupying trader attentions. Given the emotional values and their downtrend, the preoccupation with bonds and derivatives is not going to be pleasant. The bonds and derivative sets are indicating to have an immediate as well as long-lasting impact on USA Pop as the data has interest rates being kicked upward. There are some sets that suggest that national chatter later in the year will include the idea that the only thing going up faster than mortgage rates is Bitcoin. These sets show in late summer, Northern Hemisphere. The data sets have the sudden spikes in the mortgage interest rates being called death spikes, a la the gaming community's use of the phrase, and being tied to the death of local real estate markets in many stories in regional and local publications over the first half of 2017. The data sets have the death spikes starting early in 2017 and in some formerly plush areas being so severe as to reduce to 10%, i.e. a 90% loss in the value of properties by mid-2018. That assumes Webbot's right on the timing. And you know, sometimes it's not. And I don't know if I want this or if I do or don't want this. If my area can get a house for 10% of what it was, holy crap. Time to start saving, JSNIP. Or time to start unloading some silver when this happens, if silver's at a great number. And I think if I can remember when I get to the section about silver and gold, I'll tell you why I think I really chose silver right now instead of Bitcoin. But anyways, the data sets for bonds, and derivatives have the interest rate rising very rapidly across January through March, such that the rates themselves become a public discussion point that will become part of the ongoing political fracturing. These rising rates have big impacts on real estate, but the impacts there show up later in February and March. These impacts are forecast to include something of a bust along most of both coasts as the failing regional banks decide to dump their holdings for cash velocity. There are many subsets suggesting that banks will be advertising discounts and losses on property for cash buyers. Oh, you got cash? We'll give you an even better discount. We need cash bad? We'll give you the discount. That's what this is saying. And I want to be one of those people. Sell some silver, here's your cash, give me the house. Thank you. Yet more cash buyers and real estate problems show up for California more than the rest of the West Coast. The California sets have very large repercussions for the Golden State, both immediately and later as the next California gold rush starts to move the population into new directions. Yet more data for woo-woo shows up both in the real estate crashing as well as the gold rush, as new discoveries in old dirt are forecast as exciting woo-woo aficionados, as ancient pharaohic Egyptian artifacts become embroiled in local California politics and fights over water. The sets around the ancient pharaohic Egyptian artifacts may be referencing new understanding or new facts of information that may be coming out of California. There are some subsets about the artifacts and their discovery, but not enough in this processing to say that it is the artifacts that will surface as opposed to the information. The Alta reports, which is Webbot reports, have long had sets for the collapse of the college/university system here in USA Pop. Some of these sets have manifested in recent years. Model space has now new growth in both immediacy and shorter-term values within the collapsing college system sets. The new growth is in areas that are directly tied to either financial students or financing students or investments endowments. Other sets within the larger metadata layer of Secrets Revealed are reinforcing previously forecast language for difficulties within bad behavior of some segment of the general population. Now we note that the planned and hyped protests around the Trump inauguration are forecast within the most recent processing to be a flop or a wet noodle episode. The data shows that there are going to be instances of bad behavior that will be hyped within legacy media. That's the old mainstream media. But that the expectation of mass demonstrations is to be quite disappointing. Yet more data continues that would seem to suggest that the political, which by the way, back up, Jason. Recently, I've been feeling very good that the Congress is not going to pull shenanigans on Trump come January 5th, 6th. They're going to let it go like they've let every other president go. He's the guy. We're going to let him in. We're not going to try to object to the electoral, all that. I've been having that feeling since about several days ago. And when I read this today, it made me think, oh, good. That means he may get right up in there and handle business. Yet more data continues that would seem to suggest that the political fracturing would continue or will continue as political parties come unbound. Many of these sets are cross-linked over to the corruption and Pizzagate sets. Note that this will affect the Republican politicians as much as or more than the Democrats. For those who do watch politics as a sport, this period is forecast as defining the American political parties for the next few decades. Though the data is quite clear, it will not be until 2025 that the form will be entering stability. Prior to that time, the data has the political structures within USA Pop described as constantly shifting alliances that are only waiting a puff of wind to break them. The data shows layoffs and bad business decisions coming to the forefront of awareness as 2017 gets off to a violent start in the area of currencies and debt markets. The USA entity has new growth for confusion, chaos, conundrums, collisions, and confrontations, all focusing on money and or currencies that are already growing rapidly as model space has moved into January. There are a number of minor sets within USA Pop that are suggesting that the crisis-threatening exposure of the deep state and perhaps the shadow state will be used either by individuals on their own initiative or by policy to dump the pedophile burden. The data suggests that an outing is coming as part of the truth assault on USA Pop in which the pedophile burden will be purged. Boy, I can't wait to see that. Last but not least, markets entity. Once again, massively shorter than it should be, but still long enough that I hope Cliff doesn't yell at me for going over my time. I hope he understands. I couldn't leave it out. Markets. This work in the publications known as the Alta Reports, again, what about reports, began in 1997 with the first data gathering operations. From that time until this very day, the data sets have always had a Dow Jones over 20,000 value set in place. This set was discussed in radio interviews in the early 2000s, and there were other elements within these sets, including my infamous silver to be over $600 an ounce statements made through these decades. One needs to grasp how rare it is for actual numbers to make it through the processing in order to appreciate the nature of the $600 per ounce silver statement within the data that has held stable for over 20 years of these reports. These sets may not have had any growth for months at a time, yet when next resumed, the data sets would still reinforce the link between $600 silver and 20,000 Dow Jones. But both of these numbers were beyond strange and completely into the world of lunacy in the early 2000s. However, it is with some satisfaction that it is noted we are there now for the 20,000 Dow at least. As our work expresses, once the temporal markers start to fall, can the rest of the set be far behind? ? Meaning, can we get a nice jump in silver prices? In reference to long-term sets, we have had the crashing the markets at what can only be described as an existential level of threat since 2008. These sets have a propensity to grow into the data from September through to the new year. There are indications that the language involved may be related to the span between the equinox and the solstice. There are some hints that there is a counterflow in the language that runs from the winter solstice through the vernal equinox. If we remove the autumnal equinox to winter solstice impact from the data, the crash language can be removed. However, in doing so, what remains is perhaps more disturbing than the idea of an equities market crash. Examining the data without the crash language, there is a notable shifting of power within the language that occurs before the inauguration of the new political power in USA. The power language would seem to be forecasting that a deliberate or unloosing of the reins is planned for January, with some expectation of wild gyrations of share prices globally. However, there are other sets that suggest there are counter trends trying to be pushed into place. The detail sets have spotty reinforcing language for major changes at a fundamentals level. Please note that this last set has many supporting sets for the real numbers and reduced fake numbers from government. Returning to the complete markets entity data with all the crash language in place, there are other sets describing an assault on markets data that is going to come from Israel. These sets are showing that a clique or group plot in Israel will be in place to go active in mid-January. The goal or nature of the plotters is not able to be teased out of the data sets. Rather, what is visible is a tangled mass of very fast and wild types of market actions or movements that is indicating as causing major freakouts at several levels of officialdom. Within these officialdom freakouts sets, we have some that are indicating that perhaps officialdom within Israel is also freaking out due to the finger pointing at them, or fingers pointing at them. The idea coming across is that perhaps the leadership within the Israel is both unaware and not sanctioning what the data sets are describing as the strange, sharp fingernails clique. The sharp fingernails group is also showing up with the label of Z. No telling what that is about. Other sets within the linguistic structures have Russia and China in positions to quietly discuss aid to America behind the curtains. Other sets have the Z faction being unknown to Israel officialdom, such that Israel officialdom also goes into freakout mode as the pace of change is described as being taken out of their hands in mid-January. My note is that, is this Israel's way of getting revenge on Obama and friends for the non-UN vote thing that now makes Palestine a state and Israel, you got to give back the land? Yet more data sets within the markets entity for energy research and commercial boom that will be coming to Antarctica due to the discovery. Many new emigration sets showing for wealth as the data is describing the biggest commercial boom in history originating from Antarctica. This wealth is not being described as money or gold or other precious metals, but rather as precious technology. Now that's interesting. Other, much more mundane language around both Earth and Moon are within the markets entity for a series of shocks that will be likened to earthquakes as derivatives are going to be relabeled. The lunar language will be an apparent reference to being able to easier mine the Moon than collect on XYZ derivatives. In other words, you're better off mining on the moon than trying to collect on these derivatives, as a sarcastic statement. This language is very clear, focused, and within immediacy sets for European bonds. These sets appear as model space has progressed through late January and are joining Switzerland, Italy, and the currency's crisis within global credit freeze and contagion. We also have threads cross-linking these sets within the Italian banks to USA Pop and to Australia Pop. In the many instances of these cross-links, the majority of the terminating sets are describing demand notes, interest rates, pro-offered collateral being not able to be collected or foreclosed, and government interference. The government interference is also cross-linked back over to USA Pop and EU Pop and the powers that be Pop, all of which have military subcontractor extreme emotional tension, aka a freakout, that will be visible within the mainstream propaganda press over late winter, Northern Hemisphere, and through fading, still visible well into spring. Though fading, still visible well into spring. The freakout is about the trial balloon of a massive wave of military base closings. The descriptors for the military bases would suggest that most are outside the USA proper, How these base closings are related to the derivatives is not clear within the data, though there are very clear temporal links. The markets entity has long had sets that tied together Bitcoin as it was reaching $1,000 and beyond, and the price movements of the precious metals. These sets have linked Bitcoin and silver specifically for a number of years. These sets have had hundreds of temporal markers, most of which have already manifested in both sets. These sets continue to gain new supporting values for Bitcoin to be in lead mode temporarily as precious metals will race to catch up. At that point, in the movement of model space, there are linguistic connections that show gold at over $3,200 USD. It is within these sets that we find a great or giant titan battle for control of the silver price, as the data shows it diverging globally with premiums and delta at over 100 US dollars. Yes, that is correct. The data sets are showing that there will be a global difference in the hand delivered price for silver of over $100 USD. It is at this point in the data that we get numeric prices. These prices range from $125 per ounce to over $345 per ounce. Additional note, these prices are not all within USA and represent the global spread forecast to develop in 2017. So I mentioned earlier, I want to talk when I got to this section about why I chose silver instead of Bitcoin right now. And if we have, let's just say $100 silver right now, and to get exact precise math here, I'm going to pull up the old calculator. How many 17s are in 100? 5.8. Okay, so I might be able to round that off to 6 just for ease of use, ease of speech to you. If silver is going to go up 6 times its value, that's just $100, okay? And Bitcoin now is roughly $1,000. It's there. Do I see Bitcoin going to $6,000 next year? Ooh, that's a tough one. At the same time, do I think I'm going to expect to see silver at $100 next year since they've been crushing it for so long? If what they're saying happens, and this new power structure comes in, then the answer actually could be yes, easily. And I have a physical object. It's been money for thousands of years. I didn't even think twice when I saw that little Jesus thing whipping the bankers out. I saw it. I wanted a 10-ounce bar. That's it. Do it. Bought several of those. And that was it. In independent sets for Bitcoin, we have some numbers that we are labeling our strange attractors for Bitcoin. And these numbers are 888 and 1088 and 1448, that as in dollars. These numbers are forecast as manifesting over early 2017. The data sets continue to have the withdrawal of cash as part of the currency's crisis for 2017-2018. These sets have numbers for Bitcoin in RMB, which renminbi or whatever they call it, Chinese thing, of 80,808 that will be within this period. No idea from the data as to what the dollar to RMB ratio may be at that point. The markets entity has large numbers of crosslinks that are linking the gold fever with the currency's crisis and suggesting that the paper currency's prices for gold and silver will reach astonishing levels that will emotionally scar whole generations. That may have been the last thing for me that said, maybe I should stack a few more bars of silver. Emotionally scar whole generations. Astonishing levels. Wow. So what I'm going to say, since I definitely went over pretty significantly my 30-minute time allocation to do these summaries, show Cliff high, maybe by purchasing one of his reports. that it was okay for JSNIP to go over. You know what I mean? I tried to provide as much as I could. I know I went over. I did not ask him, hey, do you mind if I go over like to 45 minutes instead of 30? Didn't ask him. And there was a chief of police, nice guy, back in Tennessee when I was doing the thing with my boss, 2013. And he said, we're talking about putting a sign by the road, and there was kind of like an ordinance, but he was kind of hinting, go ahead and put the sign up anyways. And he said, and I forgot who he said told him that. But he said, one time, whatever's told me, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. I'm using that now. Cliff, in advance, I apologize for going over. Subscribers, unite. Go buy some WebBots reports. Go buy this one. This is, again, I could spend easily another 30 minutes on all the stuff that I did not include while still considering it a summary. Okay? That's why I think you need to have this report. Throw him a bone. It's the end of the year. Give him a bonus. All right? For JSNIP4, give him a bonus. He's a great guy. I love Cliff High. Or see if you're one of the lucky winners of the 3 free reports I'm going to be giving out. 2 from Cliff High, free of charge. 1 from JSNIP4, paid for it, for my peeps. Someone's getting those. Or 3 people are getting those. Some of you, if you can't wait, and you say, I don't care, I'm going to buy one anyways. Good for you. I'm glad you did that. For others who may not have $15 and it really would be nice to get for free, maybe you guys want to comment and, I need one, I'll take one, and I'll look at how many people are trying to get one for free, and I'll just randomly pick somebody. So that's it. I'm sorry it was so long. Sorry I rambled on the beginning, but I felt like it was important to mention a lot of that stuff. You got to understand, I get anywhere between 30, 40, 50, 60, 90 new subscribers every single day. So if you do the math, and let's just say there's 30 or 33 a day. 33, I use that number because that's going to equal 1,000 at the end of the month, or 999. That's 1,000 new people, potentially, that have subscribed to me, that have no freaking idea about anything I just talked about in the beginning, may not have any idea about this report, but are definitely interested all of a sudden. That's why I sometimes say stuff that rest of you guys who've been following me for a long time are like, oh my God, we already know that. Stop saying that. We're doing it for the newbies, right? We're doing it for the newbies. That's it. Love you all. Hope you have a happy new year coming soon here. Take care.